right? So I do trust that once a vaccine or a very efficacious treatment is there, we can very quickly let trust gain over fear. And then the new normality should look back like the old normality.
Studied your master's in Paris, but you've also worked in Beirut, Dubai, Egypt, Colombia, and you've started in Spain fairly recently, about 2.5 years ago. How have you found the experience of working here in Spain, in Madrid? What are the biggest kind of changes that you've noticed in your working life in Spain as compared to those countries I just mentioned?
So far, from a work perspective, what I'm finding with my team is first a super engaged team here in Spain. People are hardworking, very positive attitude and can-do attitude. Maybe compared to my previous assignment where I was more dealing with Asian cultures, I'm enjoying the fact that people debate on everything, which is personally more of my preference because they speak up. You can have very long and interesting debates around a variety of topics. But then what's nice about it is at the end, we are able to always wrap it up, agree, and then go on and execute. On maybe what was difficult to adapt to, I think besides maybe late dinners, which is which is not maybe what I was used to, that was the only thing which I'm finding different, but now quite accustomed to.
How did you first come to be involved with Lilly? And over that time of 26 years, what are the changes that have most surprised and interested you within the company?
Maybe in these 26 years, what I found changing, probably we moved on to be less of a formal company. I mean, I joined probably a less diverse company, which was a bit more US-centric, a bit more male-dominant, and where communication was a bit more top-down, to today a much more diverse company with more representativity from different cultures, from different gender, and a more open culture overall, where communication flows both ways in a much more natural way than maybe what I found in 1994.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Emprende inHealth program, which is done in collaboration with Unlimited Spain. Emprende inHealth, for those who don't know, champions up-and-coming health companies who are looking not just to make economic benefits, but also to make a social and or environmental impact. Now, some of the past participants and winners of Emprende inHealth have spoken very kindly of their involvement. For example, Mafalda Soto, co-founder of Beyond Sun Care, said her involvement in the program marked a before and after for her company. So how did this collaboration with Unlimited Spain first come about? And what for you have been the program's proudest achievements so far?
It really, the premises of the program were on looking for an opportunity of building shared value, both for entrepreneurs, but also for our own employees and organization. As you've said, we were lucky to come across Unlimited, which basically fosters a lot of this social entrepreneurship, not just in health, but also in many other areas, and decided to partner exclusively with them in this health sector of social entrepreneurship under the umbrella of Emprende inHealth. What it consists of is basically pairing employees and experiences from Lilly with social entrepreneurs in health. We have completed the 4th edition, just launched the 5th edition, and selected the entrepreneurs who will participate in the 5th edition, which will be starting now. So far, we've been basically supporting 24 entrepreneurs by basically offering a 6-month pairing and mentorship program where the entrepreneurs are basically paired up with a mentor, a series of employees within Lilly, and we are lucky in Spain that within our employee base, since we cover R&D, we cover manufacturing, and we cover commercialization, we are able to offer to them the full spectrum of possible views or advice or questions. We don't always have answers, obviously, to all of their questions, but at least it generates a great ecosystem where we ping pong ideas and hopefully help them grow as a company. So far, after the 4th edition, it's more than 1,900 hours of mentorship, which was spent. 23 out of the 24 companies are still in business. And in average, and without saying that it was all due to the program, but hopefully we hope that we could have contributed a bit to them. They multiplied their revenue by a bit more than 3.5 since participation in the program in average within these 24 companies. And because they work in health, many of these ideas are actually great innovations which can make significant differences in the health or the quality of life of patients in an array of disease conditions. We were particularly proud that many of the entrepreneurs that we worked with early on also got recognized subsequently by many other organizations. You know, in particular, there's a company called Fixit, which was founded by Raquel Serrano. It does 3D prostheses. Was recognized last year by the King of Spain for as a meaningful startup within this. A company that we had in our last year's edition, EverHealth, focuses on telemedicine out of Valladolid. And with the recent crisis of COVID, they had a very strong collaboration with the Castilla-Leon community and supported to set up in a record time a lot of telemedicine set up to support patients who are unable to go physically to their healthcare area through telemedicine. So lots of examples, as you could say, and I would say, besides the pride of hopefully having brought a little bit of help to these entrepreneurs, feedback from our employees, it's so far a bit more than 170 employees who participated on this. It's tremendous because it shows us the value of entrepreneurship in a company which is very large and where we might lose the values of this entrepreneurship. So a true win-win program.
Lilly and other giants of the pharmaceutical world do have the capacity to support social and environmental impact initiatives. Do you believe the pharmaceutical sector as a whole contributes sufficiently in this social impact field?
You know, I must say that to start with, the core of our business and purpose as companies, R&D pharma-based, is by definition generating an enormous social impact. You know, by the mere fact of investing in most countries where the by large, sometimes first or second after military R&D investor, we basically discover medicines which are prolonging life, making life of sick patients more tolerable and better. And the impact, if you look back retrospectively over the last century, and you could go even beyond on what this meant for society and for humanity, it's just mind-blowing, right? I mean, life expectancy has increased significantly in most countries, and many studies attribute the life expectancy increase probably to between 50 and 70% to innovative medicine. So we take a lot of pride and sense of purpose as organizations working in the R&D pharma industry that we are indeed able to contribute to society via the core of what we do, which is discovering medicine. This being said, it's important that this contribution to health does not overshadow what we could do also to some of the other sustainable goals published by the UN, right? And sometimes I guess if you're in a sector which doesn't have an as clear contribution to society, you might take a wider view to how do you tackle your contribution to these different sustainable goals. But I'm very encouraged that at least within our company, and I know in many companies in the sector, I'm seeing that we are also now broadening the discussion to beyond health. How can we contribute to society, be it via environmental goals or helping support wider access to medications and combating poverty, and obviously the quality of employment, which by definition our sector provides very good quality employment. But these discussions now are being had much more so than 5 years ago, which is encouraging because we impact society through medicine, and now we need to have a reflection on broader discussions as well.
Mm-hmm. Just on that topic of sustainability and environmental goals that you've mentioned, are there any particular sustainable initiatives that Lilly Spain are currently implementing that you could outline?
Well, we certainly have been taking now for many years some very firm commitments vis-a-vis environment and within our manufacturing plant, reducing the environmental footprint, okay, either via energy reduction or also treatment of residuos. I'm sorry, I forgot the name in English. Yeah, the garbage in a way, which now we feel very proud because we're sending nothing to which is not being retreated out of our different plants. So big element around this, and we're also through our volunteering and corporate social responsibility program, setting on some incremental goals as well into supporting more vulnerable communities in the areas where we operate. We're a big partner of United Way Spain and have been also partnering with them over the last couple of years into supporting the combat of school dropout. Spain has one of the highest school dropout rates and within our communities, we have many volunteers from Lilly supporting some colleges in Alcobendas to basically through, again, mentorship and joining some of these kids, showing them that there are alternatives in the professional world, which are totally accessible to them.
We've had over the last 3 months. You are the country manager for Spain, Portugal, and Greece. Now, it's quite complicated, I suppose, because whereas Spain has been one of the most heavily affected countries in the world by the COVID-19 pandemic, Greece and Portugal have been credited with really quick responses and being able to keep on top of the spread, more or less. So what role has Lilly played in the fight against COVID-19 in these 3 countries? And for you, what have been the different challenges that you've faced in each of these countries? Has it been difficult to juggle these challenges?
You know, I would say despite the fact that the severity of the pandemic was maybe different from one country to another, I think the approach and the priorities we set for ourselves was very common across the 3 countries. Our first, by large, priority was ensuring the safety of our employees so that in turn we can ensure continued supply of medications. This was particularly important for Spain because it's the only place where we have a manufacturing site out of the 3 countries. This site supplies medicines to more than 120 countries, and it was critical for us that while most of employees very quickly, even before the state of alarm was installed by the state, started working out of home, that we set up processes in our manufacturing site so that people who are absolutely essential to production, distribution, were able to go to work and do the work safely so that we provide an uninterrupted supply flow of medicine. And I'm glad to say that not just in Spain, but globally, we fortunately didn't face any shortages or issues. And this is critical because 40 million patients worldwide depend on taking a Lilly medicine every day. So it's a big responsibility. The second priority, which was equally applicable to the 3 countries, was contribute to research and science. You know, while infectious disease and viruses was not maybe a core focus for Lilly, by default, we have very quickly corporately decided to invest our scientists and medical expertise to the global search of solutions around COVID. Okay, so we have now 4 projects going on. One of them is with a medicine that is currently commercialized in many countries for another disease, which is supposed to be able to have a certain effect possibly on COVID. So we have contributed very quickly through our medical departments into clinical trials, etc., in all 3 countries for this. We then turned our attention to our stakeholders. Okay, as example, providers, looking for any small and vulnerable provider who could be hit by the economic paralysis, and have advanced payments to all of them to ensure that we could support in a small way continued activity for them. Patients and healthcare professionals, similarly. I mean, most of our normal patients are patients suffering from chronic diseases, diabetes, cancer, etc. So we also partnered with medical societies to provide patient support program and materials so that they could know how to manage their own chronic conditions in case they were infected with COVID. And finally, and I've touched a bit upon this a bit early on, was to say many people will be left out through the pandemic from a vulnerability and economic perspective. So we reinforced our efforts together with different partners like United Way and others, and the generosity of many volunteers to be able to support communities wherever we could. And so as you see, despite the severity being different, I think the approach was quite common across the 3 countries.
And of course, naturally, as you said, that there is a kind of global rush to find a COVID-19 cure. And in this kind of slightly panicked atmosphere all around the world, not just in pharmaceuticals, in every sector, there is this vulnerability to false information and the rushing of delicate processes. Anti-vaccine campaigners, for example, are still at large. The President of the United States has recommended drinking or injecting cleaning products as a way of combating the virus. What do you think companies like Lilly can do to foster more safe, reliable information during this pandemic?
I think you're right. I think the biggest enemy here is also overflow of information. Our approach here was also to say, if information exists, let's not add to the noise, but rather try to see how we could partner with credible source of authorities, which most times are the medical societies in the corresponding countries in which we operate. And our approach was, let's either serve as a replicator of guidance from medical society. So again, as an example, because of our specific interest in diabetes, if the Endocrinology Society of Spain issues recommendation for diabetic patients, let's adopt those rather than create something different. Or if nothing is created, in some instances, let's co-create with them. But having the discipline to screen for factual, reliable information and do it in partnership with medical societies, I think was a critical way to avoid all the noise. Okay, and certainly be cautious not to add to the noise, but rather to point towards the credible sources. Certainly, I do hope, and I think I read a lot around new normality, etc., etc. I certainly hope that the new normality will look like what life used to be before, because I cannot conceive a life where social distancing or fear prevails in a certain way, right? So I do trust that once a vaccine or a very efficacious treatment is there, we can very quickly let trust gain over fear. And then the new normality should look back like the old normality, because we shouldn't also, I think, create a feeling that everything we've known in the past is just things of the past and will never return. At the same time, hopefully out of these learnings, we would keep some of the positive things around, for example, the realization that, hey, the positive impact of this slowdown was very positive on the environment and the planet. So how do we bring back that objective to the core of our battle once the virus is being dealt with? what have we learned about our ability to work more flexibly, around also the enormous amount of solidarity we've seen. So that's really my wish for the future, for a new normality which looks like what we used to know once trust is reestablished, and some of the new dimensions that we've learned to stay there for the longer term.